just had the pleasure of meeting, but I absolutely adore how he got involved with Burning Man and why he does what he does. It's something I don't know a lot about, except for I've used it almost every year I've been out here. Wow, that's vague looking, isn't it? He has a doctorate in business administration and innovation technology and organizational change, extensive university graduate teaching experience, including courses in innovation and design, executive director of graduate business programs, and 21 years at Burning Man, including 18 as a postal volunteer or leader, 7 years at the theme camp 3PO, BRC3PO, and the title of the talk is Creative Interaction, the heart of the Black Rock City 3 o'clock post office.
Thank you, Sleepless. Now we know how you got your name, doing what you're doing. So, hey, postal workers and a few other people.
Yay!
Thank you for being here today.
Anybody here not a postal?
Yeah, there are. There's some all around the edges. I've seen you. Thank you for being here. So yesterday morning, I was working at our postal window at BRC3PO, and there's a long line for Sunshine Diner going in front of the post office. We had some people come to our window, and there was a woman there who works at the writing center at UC Santa Cruz, who came up to me, and she brought her postcard she had written to me, and then I asked, well, what are you gonna do for me? What bride can I elicit? And she didn't know, and I didn't either, and we engaged in some chit chat. And then I discovered what she did. She worked at the writing center at UC Santa Cruz, and I said, I've got it, here's your bride. You need to go into that line there and find someone who needs some help writing, and you're gonna provide help to that person. So about an hour later, she comes back to the post office. She says, that was amazing. I helped somebody who didn't know how to write a postcard. And this person had never really written much of anything before, and he felt really proud of his communication. And he said, well, what should I write? And I said, write something, this is the woman speaking, write something that you wouldn't normally say to this person, but that you really feel and mean. So he wrote a short, poignant communication to his girlfriend, and that got sent off in the mail. So, we've got this post office. With this one interaction, this woman communicates to a friend in Santa Cruz through her post office. She helps someone who's functionally illiterate to write a postcard that he feels really good about, and he facilitates the improvement of his relationship to his girlfriend. So, that's one interaction. A short time later, another person walks up, and she was excellent at belching at will. So naturally, I handed her the microphone, and she let out a couple of magnificent belches that spread across the 3&G Plaza. So these are some of the ranges of things that can happen at BRC3PO. So let me ask this. What does it mean to play as an adult? First of all, when I say play an adult in the same sentence, what comes to mind?
Sex.
What?
Sex.
Exactly. So, and that's part of play, but it's just one dimension, right? I think in our society, as adults, we've forgotten in many ways how to play. And so I've redefined play because it has just a sexual connotation to really creative interaction. And so that's really what we're about. Creative interaction can happen in any dimension of life. You can creatively interact at work, in which case it stops feeling like work. You can creatively interact with your friends and your family, but we sometimes get so caught in the control and organization of our culture that we forget how to do that. And I describe creative interaction as happening in that space, at the intersection of chaos and organization or control. It's that space right in between where boundaries can just get stretched a little bit. And that's what we do at BRC3PO. We exist to facilitate creative interaction. We are a creative interaction theme camp that uses postal services as a means for interaction.
Yes!
How do we do this? Okay, here's where I'm going to put on my professor hat a bit, because I teach about systems and systems thinking, and organizations. So here's a principle, and I tell my students, if you just remember this from a whole course I taught this semester, I will have succeeded. The structure of systems produces behavior, which produces the results or events that happen in our world. We tend to just focus on the behaviors because often the structures of systems are invisible. As an example, I use this example in my classes, Burning Man. Okay, you've got a physical infrastructure and layout. What is Burning Man? I mean, you got this blank slate, right? You have a physical infrastructure, and then, oh yeah, we're good. And then we have the 10 principles, right? And actually the 10 principles are what creates the culture that is Burning Man. You put the physical infrastructure with the 10 principles and you get this incredibly complex, amazing experience that is Burning Man. So at BRC3PO, we also set up certain structures to a system that produces the behavior of creative interaction. So what is it that we do? Well, we have a physical structure, just like Burning Man. We've got a big giant post office, and we have our designers, builders here of our postal structure. And so we've got our physical layout, and that PO box includes, the post office includes that physical post office box. We have a sound system. We've got lights that light us up at night, thanks to another one of our postal workers. We've got writing tables in front, and then we've got a stage that folds down. That's our physical infrastructure. But then there's, how do we create that interaction? How do we create the creative interaction happening? So we have a few principles. One, we have no shifts at our post office, right? You work when you want to start working, and you work as long as you want to work, right? Because we want you to be having fun. It's not like you're there, like obligated to be there. Everyone who's there is there because they want to be there when they're there, right? So that's one thing. So the postal workers have that sense of freedom. But then we need a hook. Like if someone comes to the window, how do you spur that creative interaction? Well, really you need two things. You need to establish the relationship. So one is that we're kind of a postal theme camp, right? So there's that relationship. And then we've got to create some kind of a hook to prompt that creative interaction. We use bribery. We say, when you come past those writing tables, we are now a bribe economy. Now, people think, oh, well, barter. It's not the same as barter, okay? What this is it's a hook to facilitate creative interaction. And if anybody comes up and says, well, how do I pay for this postage and stamp, this postcard that I'm wanting to deliver here? Because we provide tons of postcards, we provide postage at BRC3PO, we provide everything, but if they just handed us written postcards and that was it, there would be no creative interaction. So the bribery is really a hook to create that. But we create a safe space for the interaction, and that's also important. We create some kind of boundaries. One, you're interacting through a window, right? So there's like, you have that kind of sense of a safe space. But we want to, once we create that, to see if we can stretch their boundaries to that place where play and interesting interactions can happen. Now, some people try to pay us. And anyone who tries to give us money, I tell them 10 push-ups right now in the dust, come on, all right? Because, no, of course we don't. There's two places that take money, ice and here, right? That's it. So we've got to be more creative than that. Now, some people come bearing gifts, and that's okay, whether it be beer or bling or some other beverage or bracelets or whatever it might be. And, that's okay. Especially if it's homemade. It's like they're really offering a gift and it's important for me to receive it. But if it's really junk or crap, it's like, no. And that's not going to do it. I would rather have a creative interaction. And the vast majority of the time we have creative interactions, with the one exception of an 11-year-old girl who comes every year, loves working at our post office. She's a swag magnet, so we've named her Swagnet. And she now wears she's got one of these things that says Schwagnet on it. But in general, it's the interaction that we're looking for. But if someone has something creatively they've produced they want to give to us, that's great as well. But the vast majority do something, and they need a prompt then. If you just say, well, you know, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to interact with me or whatever? It's like, well, there's nothing there. That's where the creative flow starts for us. And I usually start just by engaging in conversation with that person until I find out a little bit, and then something will just pop up. Like that woman who I told to go find somebody to help her write. So, but there's some things I'll go to. Do you have a secret talent? Can you sing a song for us? And often if they want to sing a song, they're not expecting then a mic to be handed to them and it to be broadcast across the playa. We have a stage. Someone says, oh yeah, I'll do a dance for you because we're playing music through our sound system. And we'll have them get up on the stage and dance or whatever. You know, it's like we turn it into something that stretches them. It's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And then magical things happen. As one example, I asked someone to do a dance the other day. She said, I'm good at the funky chicken. I said, okay, do the funky chicken. And so she's doing the funky chicken. I say, okay. And I call out to her, do the funky seagull. And she starts doing do a funky chickadee. She starts doing a funky chickadee. You know, do a funky turkey. You know, and so she just kind of like, so anyway, she thought she was in her safe zone, and then we stretched her a little beyond that, and it was really hilarious. So, all kinds of things can happen, but sometimes I have to lead by example by making such a fool of myself that they feel more comfortable making a little bit of a fool of themselves, which then allows that kind of stretching of those boundaries and some creative interaction. So, establishing a relationship, which is the postal relationship, having that hook of the bribery, and then providing some prompts that leads to these creative interactions. So a couple of the results of this, of creating this structure of a system that leads to these creative behaviors. And creative interaction is a healing force. And we've seen that with a lot of our postal customers. Real connections happen. People tell their stories at our windows. They make us cry and they cry at our windows. So there's real connections, and we connect with them where they are. I start by just connecting with someone, and then I get a sense of who they are and then where this can go. Feeling included, like they're now part of something. Feeling included in our community is part of it as well. Burning Man can be the loneliest place on the planet for people who feel isolated from their campmates or having a hard time with their partner. So, there have been times when I've had 2-hour conversations at 2 in the morning at our post office through our window with someone who really needed a connection. And laughter is healing. So that's another part of this. And we laugh a lot. We never know what's going to happen next. And whether it's me or someone else at our postal window who's interacting in ways that are just amazingly funny and fun. So laughter is healing. And affirming the beauty of our postal customers is healing. And sometimes that can happen through playful flirtatiousness, where you're just kind of interacting, you're affirming the beauty of the person, and they're feeling better about themselves as they walk off after that interaction. Daisy, our camp co-lead, was mentioning to me yesterday about how she's become a better listener by being a postal worker. She gives a person her full attention and gives them space to open up. And they feel it, and they do. And I popped into the post office yesterday, and there's a woman crying at Daisy's window. And, it's like she just creates that space for people. So, creative interaction can be very healing. Creative interaction is also awakening. You give the right prompt or question, and this allows the unexpected to emerge. Unexpected for both of us. And that requires me trusting my intuition to come up with the right prompt, suggesting the right bride. And then one of my favorite things is to explore deep topics. So I regularly ask people, what gives meaning to your life? What is the truth about the nature of reality? Questions like that. And then I don't always just take their answer at face value. I have them I question their assumptions about that. I really engage with them about kind of deep and philosophical topics. Yesterday, someone came to line. We had the Sunshine Diner line in front of us, and I asked that person to go talk to 4 people in line, like have a group of 5, and they need to come to consensus on what is the meaning of life. And that person came back a few minutes later and said, we did it. The meaning of life is to give. And I thought, yeah, I like that answer. That was great. So, so creative interaction can be awakening as well. And for those of us who work there, it puts us into a state of flow, a creative flow that's deeply fulfilling, almost addictive. We lose any sense of time when we're working at the window. And so we get so in the present moment when it's all over, like when I finally have to have the spell broken because I have to pee or eat or something, then it's like, someone says, how was it? I said, oh, that was amazing. Well, what happened? I can't remember a thing. It's like I'm so in the present moment that it's like I have no idea what just happened. I just know it was a blast. Okay? So that's a state of creative flow that can happen for those of us who work there. So, in conclusion, I think I want to present this as just a template, and for you to consider how you can create structures, systemic structures in your life that could facilitate creative interaction. How can you create those opportunities or platforms for creative interaction? What structures, like physical structures and principles, design principles, would help you to be able to create those opportunities for creative interaction in your life, whether it's with your family, whether it's at work, or it's a creative expression in the world. And so, how can you design your life to creatively interact? Because we certainly have a lot of fun doing it at BRC3PO. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, are there questions or stories? We have a bunch of postal workers, so if any of you have some of your stories, you're welcome to say them, or any questions you may have.
Great, I got a microphone right here. Actually, we'll make it easier on your voice.
Okay. Okay. One thing that John didn't mention that I have been seeing a lot is the joy that people take in delivering on via mail for us. Every day, every hour, somebody says, "Can I do that? Can I do that? Can I do that?" And it goes.
Yeah, that's a great point. This is Bocce. He's our lighting designer and amazing campmate. So that's another part I didn't even get to. Like we have permission, in a sense, to walk into anyone's camp to deliver mail. And we do the same thing there. It's not just to drop off mail. It's like, okay, I've got a piece of mail here. What are you going to do for me to get this mail? And we do the same thing there. But it's inside of someone's camp. And so we creatively interact in camps all over the playa as well.
Questions? Yes?
So I don't really mean to be negative, John, but there's always another side to things.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes sense as you begin this creative interaction that you're on the verge of sending someone to the mental health center?
This is where you got to tune into where the person is, right? And sometimes we do send people to the mental. We say, this is where you should go. There's the Zendo, there's the emergency services. So it's just to tune into someone where they're at, and then give them their next step, whatever that may be. Other questions, stories?
Anything from the audience?
Marco, come on.
Okay, so for my ride, I actually oftentimes will say, I need a moment from you, and I'll take somebody, and as John says, first establish a relationship a little bit, but I require a moment, and some of those moments are very deep. And sometimes they're surprising. In fact, they're so surprising and deep, sometimes I go, whoa, what did I get myself into? But usually, when that person goes down and gets into their heart, it's just, describing what's the moment they felt that was the breakthrough since they've been here. It's like, what popped your heart when you got here? And they go back and they find that. And then they remember it, and they have to put it into words to describe it. And it brings, so some people are incredibly happy, others come to tears, but they're usually very grateful. And so that's the cool thing about bringing this out, is that I find that people are actually grateful they came and interacted with it. The people that don't come up to the window are often intimidated, but the people who come and go through it oftentimes have a breakthrough, and they come back.
Yeah, thank you. And it reminds me of yesterday, we had someone come to the post office window when I was there, and he mentioned that he was going to be doing a guided meditation today somewhere on the play. I said, oh, I know what your bribe's going to be. So we had him do a 5-minute guided meditation, and about a dozen people gathered in front of the post office who just happened to be there, and he led us through a guided meditation for 5 minutes and just created this chill vibe. It was so beautiful. So that's where you never know what's going to happen next. Do we have any more time? Any more questions or comments from anybody?
We have time for one more question or comment or a short story if anybody has.
Dave, there we go.
Great.
Dave Ray is one of our awesome guys.
The word responsibility of Burning Man is bullshit, because we have to be responsible for ourselves. But there's part of the post office that I've enjoyed in the 5 years that I've been there, that we feel a deep sense of responsibility to create part of the festival. A lot of people have never been here, they're a little intimidated, so it's our goal to pull those people, as John said, by this creative interaction, pull them into the festival, give them a safe space to interact with us. And so for us, for me, I feel a great joy in being sometimes the first person that somebody's interacted with that day that's never been here, introduce them in a new way of speaking, and again, pull them in. So part of, I guess for postal workers, but I like the responsibility that I feel at our camp. And I think that we take that very seriously, and because we want to create this amazing safe space for people to have these breakthroughs, for them to take that information and take that out to someone else and give them strength here.
I would say that to truly have fun, you've got to be responsible, because then you can have fun without any guilt, regrets, or anything else. So, good point. Thank you, Dave, and thank you, everybody. And I hope you stick around for some of the other great speakers coming up.
Thank you.
BRC3PO. We are at the 3 and G Plaza. Come visit us and interact.